are early, or something ranged early that typically gets countered by these ranged top laners. And if they really want to hammer that home, then a Varus ban here, not needed as it was taken in Fearless. In Fearless for game number 1. But for WE, they've gone very mid lane focused with the Syndra and the Orianna taken off the board. The Jarvan still removed as well. Haven't seen any bans toward the Poppy just yet by EDG. With game number 1 out of the way, maybe expecting Monki to go back to some old habits, and as I mention it, turns out, yeah, they're not going to give him the chance.
No, indeed they are not. Instead, going to be looking on towards their first pick right here. Lots of high priority first pick champions taken off of the board at this point. The Nocturne, something that we have seen Monki come back to time and time again, is however available. A few of its favorite pairings have been taken away though, so not sure if you want to lean straight on into that one.
Nocturne, Neferi, still available. Xin Zhao if they want to get a little bit deeper into the pools. Instead, WE say we want consistency. We want DPS in this game, and Karis going to be looking to provide that one as well.
Indeed he is. And again, it's one of his most picked up champions. It's also taking away from Bulldog, who's been playing this one a lot. Bulldog immediately here gonna slam himself on to this Yone, and that's really exciting. That could be an explosive matchup specifically in the mid lane, but also between the Rumble and the Yone, you've got the beginnings of a really fun teamfight composition here for EDG.
Yeah, if they can line up those straight line spells on top of each other, then very bad news for WE. Yeah. Obviously, the execution of that is quite difficult, so not expecting it to be one and done here, as WE do lock in the Ezreal Seraphine, sort of a mismatch of two different bot lane pairings. We did see this one come up a little bit toward the middle part of Enchanter season, and About and Erha going to look to do some great poke in the early game and really make EDG think about how they're playing out this bot lane.
Indeed they are. Interesting to see what the support option is going to be. Obviously, something like the Rel would be really fun alongside all of these champions. Something like the Nico 2 would have been good. Instead, just going to move on towards the Nautilus. A little bit of extra safety with this pickup. Some non-committal engage as well, which is something they were going to need with this composition. And the Nautilus obviously can help out with keeping people in line for those ultimates. For WE, as you're saying, right, plenty of roam potential coming through. The bot lane could be a power point, depending on what the ADC paired up alongside this Nautilus is going to be. Now, looking to move these bans on. And with neither of the junglers picked early, this is really surprising. As we've been talking about, right, the junglers have been super high priority in these drafts, usually picked up as quickly as possible. I'm expecting to see the Neferi, the Nocturne, the Lee Sin all to hit bans at this point. And if any of them do sneak on through, they're going to be picked up very quickly.
And importantly, it is EDG who sort of get their hands on that pick first. So they have last pick, meaning that they get the first pick out of this next ban phase, which obviously means they're going to get their first dibs on those highly prized junglers. WE going a different way and opting to secure, or remove rather, some popular bot lane in answer to the Ezreal. Leaves Mel not going to see a game, nor is the jungle for Monki's Neferi or Lee Sin. Like you've mentioned, Bloxer still with that Nocturne ready and available. But for WE, feels a lot like they've got a very front-to-back happy composition to take these team fights.
Yeah, they've got themselves a sort of composition that you can play a little bit slower, right? You can make your moves exactly when you need to make them, and I think that's going to put them in a pretty good spot as long as they're able to execute through the earlier stages. For EDG, you still need to pick yourself up your jungler and your ADC at this point. Any of the dive-heavy ADCs I think would be good. Your Yanaras, your Kaisers, I think could put you in a really good spot right here. It's very risky overall as a composition. I do not like the misfortune in this situation, but that is going to be the choice. We'll talk about it a little bit. It works, obviously, with the idea of the composition, right? You layer that ulti on top of everything else, but it is so much harder to execute for Leave than any of those others would have been.
Straight line ult is the EDG motto here. It's line up WE like a set of bowling pins and then try and knock them all down. It's a tried and true combo. It's a classic. Pressure R, hope to win the game. And we'll see if WE can maybe try to find something that gets them out of that cycle. A knee-jerk reaction would be to try and go for split push, but instead they've opted into no, we'll just out-team fight you.
Yeah.
As they go for the Trundle and the Ornn.
And I kind of like it in this situation, right? Between the Trundle and the Ornn, your pillars available to knock people off of their spots. It's going to be really tricky for Leave to actually be able to find his opportunity to be able to make an ulti work. And it is going to be the Qiyana as the final lock-in right here for JJ. It is about the team fight as well, right? It's not quite the same kind of wombo combo team fighting out of the Qiyana, but still big damage available to you, and some extra threat to try to get on top of Karis and About, who otherwise just needed to stand far enough back to not get caught by the wombo.
Yes, that is the goal here. Now, I do fear for EDG, the same sort of composition that WE drafted for themselves in game number 1. It's sort of what EDG have landed on here. Now, they are overall more concise as an identity, but do they have a way of killing a tank? Do they have a way of getting through Cube? I'm not too sure just yet.
Yeah.
Likewise, for WE, if they don't have somebody marking JJ, if they don't have somebody marking Bulldog, they are going to find themselves in a little bit of a struggling position here. Seraphine really good in these long-term fights where Qiyana wants to get in, kill you, and get out before you've recognized that she's even on your screen. Game number 1 went to EDG, and they've changed up the style moving in to game number 2. They've gone full confidence, full assertiveness, full dive with this to try to find their very first series win of split number 3. And for Team WE, it is about righting the ship in game number 2, sending us to game number 3, giving the home fans something to cheer about. It's game number 2 here between WE, between EDG, as we load up onto the Rift.
Good. It's once again good cheers from both sets of fans, and once again EDG fans finding themselves in a place to be cheering that a little bit stronger than previously. Let's see if they're going to be able to get this one done. Both junglers are going to be starting towards the top side of the map and working their way on down. Be interesting to see what it is that we can get out of JJ early on. I'd love to see some early ganks out of this guy.
Double Q whiffed there by Erha, which is pretty important, but already very early summoner spell usage down here by both bot lanes. Forces Parukia to go back to base. It gives About an Erha a really nice window down on this bot side to potentially punish Leave. He's going to lose out on some of these minions. Parukia is sprinting back from the base, but I don't think it's going to be enough time to make sure that all of this wave is picked up. Now with a minion wave in their faces, WE in a little bit of trouble maybe. Parukia already coming back to the lane, and he's already half HP. Arcane shift forward from About, and with a lethal tempo fully stacked up, they pick up 1. Flash not available for Leave here, as he's going to fall under the turret as well. It is a 2-for-0 trade, and WE clap back.
There they go. WE find everything that they could have. Both junglers came sprinting down as well, skipping a couple of their camps to try to get involved, but it doesn't matter in the end. 2 kills for WE. About's able to grab one of them as well critically, and look at the minion wave. It's going to be pushing back towards them as well. Just leaves them in a beautiful spot right here.
It is the dream purchase as well for both of these 2 supports. About gets to go back to base, pick up a tier and a cull. The Seraphine goes back to base, picks up a tier and some mana regen. EDG come back to the bot lane and miss a last hit on a creep. This is the perfect beginning to this bot lane.
Yeah, that's the sort of thing that's just got you in awe. If you are a bot laner, exactly what you would have wanted to see for WE. Now, it did kind of hurt Monki right here. He was worried about his bot lane, and he skipped his chickens to be able to sprint down there and try to help out with the squad. So, you know, he's a little bit delayed in terms of picking up all of his camps, getting on with what he's been trying to do with his early game, but you definitely trade a little bit of reduced tempo for your jungler for 2 kills onto your bot lane.
Looking at the numbers, I think he did walk in and try and steal something away from Deirdre to sort of bully around the Qiyana a little bit. Don't know that he was successful in that, but definitely a little bit delayed on sort of everything that we'd highlighted here based off of that early gank down on the bot side. And level 4 now versus level 1 down on this bot side. You can see that the poke is already starting to hurt, and for EDG, as long as they're able to, I think, collect these minions without dying, I think that's what they'll be grateful for.
Indeed, indeed. Putting them in a really rough spot right here, but trying desperately to just pull as much gold back together as possible. Leave looking like he may already have to go back to base, and if he does, if he actually just has to go back here, this is miserable. No, he's going to decide to stay. I think it's the right decision overall, but you can see, I mean, most of this poke really isn't coming through from about. It is Erha.
Hook landed there, but a great arcane shift gets him out from underneath the turret, and if you didn't need to go back to base before leave, you definitely do now. Look at that XP bar as well. Down on the lower hood, you can see about almost level 5, where leave halfway through level 3, yes, but not particularly in a good spot. Already a 1,000 gold lead opened up down on the bot side for the bot laners. And they are absolutely snowballing here. We need to see EDG do something somewhere. Because if he can't, and this bot lane is allowed to just completely free roam, the game will end.
Indeed it will, and you can see already just the aggression coming through right here. And it's going to spread across the rest of the map. If your Ezreal is in a strong enough spot to just sit by himself, which about is absolutely in this situation, all of a sudden you're going to end up with Erha in your lanes elsewhere, making the map rough to play for everyone else.
Exhaust down onto Parukia, looking for an anchor toss, does find one. One final Mystic Shot going to pick up the pieces of a dead Anchorman. It's a third kill down on the bot side, a third death for the bot lane, and WE are absolutely off to the races.
Yeah, they are. They're in a brilliant, brilliant spot right here. Doesn't actually turn around and go pick up the initial Drake, does Monki. Instead, look mid lane as Bulldog goes in, possibly a little bit mistimed. Should be able to get himself back away at least. No deaths going to happen here in the mid lane.
Fortunately had Q3 ready, so kind of went in, went back out again, decided that that was all that he needed. It's worth reminding people at home, Bloxer, or maybe informing them, in fact. In the LPL, we do see a lot of very well-scaling, very fed, very late-game oriented hyper carries and champions that fit that mould. Unfortunately for EDG, when we talk about those champions, MF is probably at the bottom of the list in terms of champions that scale well.
Yeah, I mean, it sits alongside a bunch of the champions that we've got in the jungle who just need to get things going early and have not had that happen, and this is part of my issue with the misfortune in this situation. Now, the misfortune I didn't like even in a best case scenario, because it is so tricky to play during the late game team fights. Yes, if everything goes well, and you hit a Fate Sealed into an Equalizer, into a bullet time, wonderful, you win the game. But the chances of hitting that, so astronomically low. The chance of getting pushed back by a Monkey Pillar, way higher than that, by being hit by an Encore, all of these problems. And that's not counting what could have gone wrong during the early laning phase, which we have seen right here. About and Erha have been all over this guy so far.
Yeah, one of the crucial parts of playing AD carry, and a sort of strategy I would encourage you guys at home to employ when you're playing these marksmen is think about what spells do I need to dodge, do I need to be fearful for, do I need to look at before I can really start to step forward. On a misfortune, the list is so much longer because it's not just anything that can CC you, it's anything that can displace you as well. And with no mobility, versus an Ornn, versus Trundle, versus this Seraphine, you run into the situation where you're waiting for those spells before you can step up, and if you're waiting for all of those spells to be cast, your team have probably already lost the game.
Exactly, they're like, come on, press the ulti, and you get it all the time, and we'll say it too, we'll be like, hey, why didn't he press the ulti in that team fight? Well, he never got an opportunity. There was always somebody holding something back to knock him up, to make sure he's not able to play out these team fights, and it is really, really rough to see, especially with a composition right here that spikes pretty hard on first items in places. The fact that you're so far behind, the fact that About is going to get his Trinity Force almost immediately in this game, and then he's off to races, you're never going to be ahead of this Ezreal in this game.
So your eyes do immediately turn to the mid lane, to the jungle for EDG. JJ was able to find an MVP in game number 1, and he's going to need to do some much crazier things here in game number 2 if it's going to give EDG a way back into this game. Bulldog will find the first plate in the mid lane. The Crystalline Overgrowth making that very easy. As JJ is ahead in experience, ahead in gold, but not by any means matching the pace that About has. This Ezreal, now with this build path, I will say can be difficult to go back and find items because you're going for the Trinity Force, which has a lot of components as well when you've got the Tear and the Cull and Triple Tonic. Actually trying to get these items on recalls can be a little bit tricky, but I think with the acceleration, going up and buying a straight Trinity Force is not completely out of the question. As WE are going to find themselves a window here to leverage that bot priority to secure themselves this first Drake.
And it just continues to roll on in WE's favor. I mean, we had an incredibly dominant game number 1 out of EDG. WE now looking to make something similar happen for them. As much as we talk about the MF not having some super good scaling here, Roodood, it's not like the rest of the composition doesn't work well later on into the game, right? The Rumble Equalizer can be ridiculous. Obviously, the more items you get onto a Yone, the more crazy things you can potentially get out of Bulldog. The whole composition does have places to potentially look towards as we get later, but it really would have been better served by having things go right at this point.
Okay. Ulti's traded on this top side. I don't know that ZDZ is going to get the majority of that wave cleared out with it, but no Call the Forge God now does make Cube a little bit more susceptible to falling down.
Oh, he teleports back to lane.
Yeah, he teleports specifically out of lane. And to conclude the conversation on Misfortune here, if this MF is really weak and then WE go, we don't need to focus her, that does open up for an opportunity for a big ulti to happen, because what doesn't change is that if you land a big ulti on the MF, you will do damage.
I love this. This is the long game. You're saying that EDG, they know us up. They knew that if the Misfortune was too strong...
Bloxer.
Yeah. This is the sort of copium that you need to be an EDG fan, right? This split really would have brought the most out of their fans in that regard, and I love that it's bringing it out of you here too. And this is the joy of a wombo combo composition. It really only needs to work once. If it works once really well, that's going to be good enough for you. You can see JJ potentially looking to get involved down on the bottom side of the map, as both junglers really have been looking at these lanes, but haven't really been able to find anything so far in this game.
Bulldog getting a good trade-off in the mid lane. You'll notice that he waits until the Rise has used all of their spells and then looks to go on in.
Oh, Bulldog.
In low, Karis.
Okay.
Oh, does get baited out there. The fake out from Bulldog forces the Rise to stop a recall, and it's not a big thing, but it definitely gives a little bit of a mental edge back to Bulldog here in the mid lane.
Very much so, and it means that he is at least going to be able to grab himself another turret plate right here, although, actually, just going to have to use the tether to get himself back away as Monki arrives, popping down the pillar. 3 minutes until we have the next Drake available to us, obviously. And the Grubs, something to potentially think about as well.
We've moved WE's bot lane into the mid lane without a turret having been taken, so maybe just sensing some slightly more low-hanging fruit for this Ezreal to be able to walk in and claim. That's one turret plating being picked up, with all 3 of those grubs successfully picked up by Monki earlier, and it's going to give About a window here to find a second plating as well. So just off of one move into the mid lane, About has found himself 200 gold in turret plates. In terms of small macro moves for success, I'd count that one as a pretty successful venture by WE.
Yeah, pretty good one overall, and things just continuing to work out for them. First items coming through in a lot of really key spots as well. The Rylai's slowly getting stacked up here for Karis, and more importantly, About Trinity Force in inventory. He is ready to just run through the opponents. To be honest, WE could really do with there being some sort of objective to go and fight around right now, because they're not able to extract quite so much out of the laning phase.
Trying to extract HP out of this Rise, and Karis flashes very well, gets a root under the turret, but there is just too much damage there. First kill of the game for EDG in what was ultimately a simple dive for them.
There we go, they're able to fight their way back just a little bit, right? And they've got a ton of vision around the top side of the map as well, so they know they're safe to push onto this tower and make something happen right here. Still, bot lane continues to be terrible over on the side of EDG. Leaf just about going to be able to get his BT completed, but he's just conceding turret plating and gold in the mid lane as well. Really struggling to just be able to sit and keep himself alive.
Looks like we're having a little bit of a base or a race here for that first turret into the mid lane. Trundle obviously very good at taking down structures, but in the face of a bot lane duo, it's not actually that easy. Obviously, this item as well for Dieje is going to help out with taking structures as well. Being able to take down those structures after a kill, very, very helpful, and the Bastion Breaker doing its job. Neither side actually able to take a turret, though one mistimed recall, and it could very well be curtains for those structures.
Absolutely, you can see they're continuing to try to push onto this mid lane, but WE could get a little bit sandwiched right here. JJ waiting in a brush, does decent damage at this point. Like you said, Bastion Baker helping with structures, but also just going to be doing decent work for the side. Really though, WE with first items completed here, they are in a very strong position.
We look across the bot lane, really. EDG now okay with a Vampiric Scepter to sustain through the poke. Not okay to live versus the onslaught of 3. Fortunately, there's only really the onslaught of 1 in that case, but with the BT leave now, should be able to sustain back up. WE focusing on these dragons, focusing on these bot side objective, while EDG playing through their solo lanes. ZDZ and Bulldog both have sizable advantages. Jitya as well, up 1k over his counterpart, so this game not completely done here for WE, as actually EDG are boasting a gold lead at this stage.
Indeed they are, and things beginning to turn back around as all of the gold, all of the plating that they've been able to grab it through the top side of the map, it does really come on through. Now, it should go back to being pretty much dead even as this mid lane tower falls. We do have the Rift Herald to play around now at this point as well. Mid lane tier 1 already cracked open, slightly less high of a priority for EDG, but they'd love to take it away from WE.
Yeah, I mean, Karis here with just a really suboptimal last 90 seconds or so, wasn't able to go up to that top side for fear of being dove. You can see that the vision on that top side relatively sparse, and the second that he does turn up in this top lane,
he's scared.
Has to be a little bit careful. Yeah, Spidey senses are tingling here, and with good reason. There's a Kiana lurking, waiting in the brush, though now there are 5 members of WE who have coalesced in the top side of this rift to try and find the Herald. Once again, though, the question is, what are they losing on the other side of the map?
A tower. Again, once again, we're going to see a lot of this tower plating going on down. Now, ZDZ doesn't take these towers that quickly overall, overheating his way through. The Rift Herald will now be picked up. And let's see where you immediately drop this one down as WE. You've got the top lane tower as the one that you really need to be cracking open, and they will just go for this play. So they are just going to trade it tower for tower.
In these long lanes, you would imagine the Yone probably has a pretty decent time of things, so it's in EDG's interest to try and get some structures broken open on those side lanes, but it's WE who, with this Herald, still 4 members strong, may be looking for just a little bit more. They find 2-3 plates here down in the top side, and have had push through the mid lane as well. This here, though, could be that first fight we've been looking for as ZDZ TP's in.
They just don't do it.
And that's about it.
Don't pull the trigger. Yeah, I mean, that's a really rough TP coming out of ZDZ. It looks like they're going to fully go in. The problem is a flanking Rumble, a flanking Kiana. Doesn't really have the same oomph as a flanking Ornn potentially could have. Doesn't really have the lockdown CC to make that play work. And instead, everybody just has to turn around and run back away. Off the back of all of these towers, all of this gold going back and forth, it is still just going to be a small 500 gold lead for EDG. It's not really reflecting too much in the items either, as you would be expecting. Pretty much dead even across the board, and I'd say the EDG, they've done a pretty good job so far of being able to fight their way back into this game.
Yeah, I think that the BT for leave has done a lot of good work so far. The Vampiric Scepter doing marginally worse, but really enabled leave to stick around and begin accruing farm for them. But I think, again, if this misfortune is the least of your worries, that opens up for leave to have these good ultis. For WE, it's about making sure that you have tabs on Jeff Bulldog, on ZDZ, so that these top 3 don't just collapse and take you out in an instant, because Karis isn't particularly accelerated here. He's on pace, on track, but notably behind his counterpart here, who is 40 CS to the good. I've got a depth charge coming through down on the bot side, down in the mid lane rather, as all 3 members of WE do get knocked up, but with 1 minute and 30 seconds left on that dragon, it'll be Parukia without summoner spells, who's looking a little bit silly around that objective.
Yeah, absolutely. Really need to be a little bit careful not to blow everything important just before the fight goes. EDG doesn't quite make it over the wall, but is just able to walk back away from this one, as the bot lane tower will fall to WE, and they put the gold back to dead even. Still, looking at the items, right, that's going to be the Cyclo Sword completed for JJ. He's in a very, very strong spot at the moment. Going to get another reset to come on through as well. A few more components into his back pocket, most likely. Like I said, less than a minute until the next Drake is coming on through. This is going to be the critical team fight. For all of the early game setup, we found ourselves in a very even position overall.
All right, this is the time for Leave to build support Misfortune. And by that I mean, I see Seraphine on the enemy team, I see Rise, I see Trundle. Immediately, I need a Serpent's Fang because there's going to be a Seraphine shielding everybody and an Archangel's coming through. Secondarily, with that Trundle and that Seraphine also comes a good amount of healing. Let me see that Executioner's calling in the back pocket. My Misfortune is not my hyper carry in this game. Leave, be a hero, drop your ego, and build support.
Yeah, I really like it. I think it's just good in this situation anyway. It also shifts your focus, right? All of a sudden, it's not all about hitting that massive bullet time, but instead, make it rain onto the backline. Couple auto attacks coming on through, and suddenly you're doing enough for your team that things are feeling good.
We are 20 minutes into this game, Bloxer, and we've yet to see a full 5 versus 5. This third dragon feels like the time where that may well change. Other than Parukia, all spells available. In goes JJ with the ultis over the top, but WE are still alive. The front line survives, and so does the back line. Now it's EDG looking to get away. Karis with a Realm Warp to try and go forward. It's WE on the chase. A root comes through, locks up ZDZ, and he's going to go down. Now WE are on a rampage through EDG. Bulldog finds one in response, and Leave able to walk it out to safety. It's a 2-for-1 so far, with Parukia expected to fall. WE didn't get the dragon, but they will get 3.
Yeah, indeed. It's just going to be a slightly one-team fight right here for WE, but the Drake stacking that was coming on through for them does get snapped in half. All of a sudden, you're not on soul point, and Bulldog getting himself a kill right here, playing that team fight out overall pretty well. The big problem, of course, was just this Ornn. This Ornn was so tanky throughout this team fight. You can see what Cube's able to do, right? Teleporting in, so he's got that massive shield sat on top of him at the moment as well. Ornn that doesn't even get hit, right? He gets pulled in to the Fate Sealed, but he's just tanking everything up, and the turnaround is pretty good out of WE. This hook that misses out of Parukia right here, he's about to throw it out right now. If he does land that onto Monki, there's a real chance they're able to turn this fight around, but he does not end up hitting that hook. And it's just by Bulldog finding a few good moments that he's able to make this a slightly more even trade overall.
Yeah, on the WE chase there, they actually did just lose 2 members. JJ doing a pretty good job at throwing back the Kiana damage and making sure that they're able to find what was actually a 2-4-2 in that play, extending even the mid-jungle gold lead, about a 3k advantage for JJ and Bulldog. Now, I highlighted that I'd like to see some certain items built up by Leave. He's ignored me and gone for the Hex Optics, but importantly, JJ has finished that Serpent's Fang. And if they are able to, apply that across multiple members, the job is being done anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. It puts you into, at least a slightly better spot overall than he has been so far. As WE, they're going to look to end this one pretty quickly, starting up the Baron right here. Let's see what EDG can do.
It might well end the game. I don't know if it's going to be in their favour or not. Bulldog gets rooted and Fate Seals away. Monki uses the Subjugate onto the Nautilus, maybe a bit preemptively, as ZDZ's looking to continue this fight on the Rumble. Equalizer to zone them out, and WE have got a bit too far forward. Equalizer sections off 3. CDG who come out with the numbers advantage, and WE started that with not seemingly an idea of how they were going to finish it.
Oh, JJ's hunting. He's thinking about it, right? Oh, just about. See Erha spotting him out in that situation. Like I said, it's not going to work out, though. That's going to be the mid lane tower falling because of this play. And about Erha, they still haven't been able to get themselves back to base off of this play. I don't know if EDG are going to stick around to try for the Baron. I think they potentially could have in this situation. Instead, looks like they are just going to take their resets.
I think that's actually what About was doing. About was sticking around there to prevent access to the Baron. For EDG, just stuck around there, throwing these spells out, constantly causing that little bit of chaos, which prevents them going for the play. Cube has TP.
It started
and
again.
I would say if it ain't broke, don't fix it, but it definitely was broken to begin with. WE think that they found the glue, they found the mold to put it back together, and they're going to head straight back toward the Baron. This time it's Cube tanking it up. And in fairness to them, it's already down to about 5k. EDG need to find a way through this front line. They've not got it in time. That's a Baron for WE. That's a Realm Warp being channeled. And it gets all three of them out to safety. Karis, beautifully played. No, but we are not finished just yet. Bulldog wants a little bit more. Can he live through this? Yes, he does. The heal, the barrier, everything comes through. And a true shot barrage doesn't quite find it. It's a return snipe by ZDZ.
There we go, the equalizer going to come on through. That is going to be the Baron picked up right here for WE, but what are they going to lose for it? They end up down a kill. They lost mid lane tower whilst trying to make these fights happen as well. Let's see what they can get off of it, I guess, is the better question right now. Yeah. Where are they going to be able to turn their focuses to? Because there's no outer towers left available. Mid and top lane are where they've got slightly lower towers to be going for. Instead, it looks like they're going to be more interested in the bot lane.
Currently, this Baron power play has netted them 150 gold at this point, which, you know, feels less like they've actually won anything as you get a little look at Bulldog finding about.
And it's a really good bit of engage right here, trusting in the fact he's got that snapback to make things work, and the equalizer out of ZDZ just close enough to be able to snipe him out. Picking that kill up right there, and now, with the Baron-empowered minions, can they actually get a push established as EDG looking to fight WE on this?
Alright, we've called the Force God. We've looked for ZDZ, who does have to flash. We also used bullet time there.
Does nothing in that situation. Now, Bulldog over on the other side of things looking for a potential flank. JJ is going to come over and join them. It's Soul Point if WE can secure this one.
One big ulti down, but WE looking for a little bit more. Bulldog caught out on the bot side of this fight, but Parukia finds a triple knock up on the other side. Bulldog living for so long, but his team can't win on the other side. It's about going forward. Erha flashing forward, and WE looking with a 3k gold lead to close that gap.
Indeed, they will. Really well executed here out of WE, playing just slowly enough. EDG, they just don't quite have the damage to be able to shut things down. And we spoke about how Karis was a bit weak early on. Well, with the 10 stacks onto the Rylai's, with that Seraphs is now pumping the damage at this point. Didn't even have to break his arm guard during that fight.
This is going to net WE, their third dragon of the game. Puts them up to Soul Point, means that in 5 minutes' time, they're going to have an opportunity to secure a very, very powerful buff here. Another look here again. Bulldog just a little bit sectioned away.
Yeah, he was wasn't able to play really onto the backline of this fight, and you can see Karis just doing more than enough work to be able to get through even all of the healing and the shielding that this champion has available to it. And if Bulldog's running away and not trying to get onto the backline of these fights, things are going to be going very well for WE overall. Looking right now like we're going to be going to that third game of the day. A full 9-game set for us here, potentially.
There's Monki here hopping forward. Subjugate keeps him alive. Bulldog did a pretty good amount of damage, but he's playing Trundle alongside a Seraphine. If you don't kill anybody, they will just come out alive even further, as Leave uses the bullet time to push away very quickly. Not going to stick around to try to hit the turret, as WE committed 3 members to running down to this bot side in aid to stop the MF, but it's an ulti that's not going to be available. LDR now picked up for the Misfortune, who has not elected to dodge out on any of the useful utility items as best as possible.
Leave wants to do damage, and we saw in the previous team fight when he hit bullet time on people, it did none, absolutely nothing. I mean, most of it was pumped into Cube and Monki, to be fair, who are the tankier members. But yeah, like you said, any of that utility that could potentially have been fun just not being moved towards here out of Leave at all. Still, the rest of his team are doing more than well enough to make up for it in a lot of these spots. These team fights just, though, going to keep getting trickier and trickier, right? We're well put beyond Cube hitting that level 14 mark. He's handing out these ornaments all around, upgraded Trinity forces on both Monki and About. These two are rolling at this point in the game.
And yet, EDG still have a gold lead. Karis has closed up that gap versus Bulldog, but it's only so that ZDZ can extend one over Cube. Despite the even CS, relatively different in terms of that gold. As a Realm Warp comes through looking for Judge, he's able to hop, skip, and jump over some walls to get out, but they do lose a blue buff. EDG, and then with the Baron spawning in 1 minute, you'd think that they'd be waiting for that. But in goes JJ to the backline, but the one shot is not successful. They've pressed their buttons, and they've killed the backline. However, Karis still stands, Cube still stands, and ZDZ is left alone in the backline. Karis has got more than enough damage to get through that. Overall, it's a 3 for 2, as it looked like Leave just got popped on the flip side.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem, right? Leave just doesn't manage to make anything happen in that fight. JJ as well, as much as he has that initial bit of burst damage, there's no sustained damage on a Kiana whatsoever. And so the second these team fights go that little bit longer, you get multiple rotation of spells off from Karis. Monki's able to keep healing up as well. Things just go from pretty good to immediately wrong. So let's watch what happens to Leave in this situation, right? The teleport's coming in behind him. He's gonna get hit. Yeah. The majority of that damage was done by Cube and Karis in that situation, but Cube did a huge chunk of it, right? And Karis just one-tapping him right there. Looked like one of the better fights you're gonna find.
If my misfortune's running in like that, we need to be asking a few questions. Not the best team fight by Leave.
No.
And the good thing is that it didn't end the game, so he's going to have another one. But he did obviously give WE quite a sizable advantage. Sizable enough so that they feel confident to, for the third time this game, start the Baron seemingly apropos of anything. Leave, you can't be the one to face check this. Pillar from Monki finds the misfortune. Subjugate, though, keeps him tanky, and fortunately enough, EDG have done enough to keep their AD carry alive. They've also got the inside track on mid lane.
Yeah, gonna lose a huge chunk onto this mid lane, as much as Leave doesn't do damage to champions.
Monki has no ulti this time, though, and he's getting caught out, getting chunked down by this misfortune. Cube missed his ulti.
Parukia.
Oh no, it's a disaster on a lot of fronts here, but EDG still rally behind their jungler. Catch out Karis, in goes Bulldog. He'll take 2 more. And now EDG, with Leave flashing forward, trying to find Cube. This misfortune does do damage, Bloxer. With 4 people dead, EDG steam into WE's base.
Can they do it? Can they end the game right here? I mean, at this point, you've got multiple members down for WE. You've just got Monki trying desperately to find a way in. He flashes forwards. He's just going to die. This is going to be it.
He's looking for the wave, but he will not be successful. Let it be known that nobody beats EDG 12 times in a row, and WE in their home arena gets shut down.
There we go. You can see the big smiles right there on the faces of the EDG boys. They've done it. They have snapped the losing streak. Like you said, nobody's going to beat them 12 times in a row. 11 was more than enough from them. And you said it, Roodood. You said it. If anybody was going to find a way to lose to EDG, WE were going to be those boys.
And up until the final teamfight block, so I didn't really feel like we knew how it was going to go, because WE seemingly had just slightly better idea of how they wanted to play the map for the most part.
Yeah.
And then when we started looking at trying to play out the team fights, they completely lost their heads. There were, fortunately for EDG, enough tools to get access to that backline. And again, Bulldog with another massive ulti to seal the deal in a fight.
Yeah, the fact that he's able to find a couple of those big ultis across multiple members was just really good to see. And Bulldog, what a turnaround from this guy, right? He gets subbed out for a couple of games. Signing in shows us nothing, doesn't really help in any way. He comes back in and all of a sudden, right, he's playing with the new fire lit underneath him. Really, really good games right here. Perfectly good on the Cassiopeia, and then really exciting for him right here on this Yone, and just a huge win. Does it really change much from their standings or anything? No, but having an actual win on the season, it means so much for these players.
And having a 2-0 as well. And I would argue as well, not a particularly hard-fought 2-0. Game number 1 was a complete stomp. Game number 2, maybe they had to put a little bit of legwork in. But I think this raises more questions for WE and where their strengths lie. We've known for a long time that WE live and die by their jungler, by Monki. And up against Judge here, the Kiana in game number 2 had absolute dominion over the jungle. Whether that was because of Monki trying to make the effort down in the bot lane, right? We saw such early power out of About and Erha that they were maybe calling for Monki to come down to that bot side. But if that wasn't the case, if it was just a misstep by Monki or something of another nature to cost this really difficult game for the Trundle, you know, we need to look at WE and think about how they can snowball their games, because also there's no way that my Ezreal should be coming out of a game with a sort of 1100, 1300 gold lead in 3 minutes and then not snowballing astronomically.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the fact that things go so well early on for WE and then nothing. Yeah. They don't make it work in any real way. It's just so rough. Now, I wouldn't be able to put all of the blame onto About right here as much as he was set up for success. He was really weaving his way through a lot of these team fights. Same thing with Karis. It just felt like Monki just didn't quite know what to do with himself throughout this entire series. Again, overly aggressive in situations in which he shouldn't have been, wasn't playing aggressive enough when they did have that lead. They didn't really push the boat any further with the lead that they had down on the bottom side of the map, and it leaves them in this just really weird situation where, sure, they should be really good, and then they just aren't.
And it's the same sort of thing for About, right? We can't criticize him entirely, but there are some things to call out when you're playing the Ezreal. You have an extra layer of safety. We talked about how marksmen need to position based off of the cooldowns that they know they've got to dodge. Really, as Ezreal, I'm looking for you to save your Arcane Shift for that Fate Sealed. Maybe for an Equalizer, but you really need to recognize that that's the tool that catches you out. That's the thing that catches you off guard and will take you down. And ultimately, if you're getting hit by that as an Ezreal in these, you know, top level of Chinese League of Legends team fights, that is ultimately a problem.
Yeah, absolutely it is. As we've been talking about, right, the implications from this series, not super important for EDG. Winning here is nice. They'd need to string a couple more of those together to have any hope of getting off at the bottom of the standings. Now, they've got Thunder Talk and JDG as their next couple of matchups. Those could potentially be winnable, right? That's not completely out of the realms of possibility that they could end up winning on some of those, but even if they do win all three of those, there's still a chance they're still our bottom place team. This means a lot more for a WE though. They have really been trying to compete for one of these better spots. Now, it doesn't really matter if you are if you are 4th or 5th place, they will play each other in the first round of the playoff, which is kind of where we're expecting them to end up being. They could, though, have been competing for 3rd, and that would have given them a much easier matchup.
It would have done. I mean, there is now a world, I feel, where LGD can maybe do something to make a bit of a push for that 4th or 5th and you know, avoid that 6th place, because you're quite right. 6th place feels like the worst place to be, because you're going to be fighting out the loser of BLG, AL, or top esports.
Yeah.
So getting out of 6th is a pretty big deal. And LGD, you know, based off of last week, they've got some chances here at being able to do it. I mean, their schedule for the next week, not particularly easy, facing up against BLG. They've got Thunder Talk and WE, so, you know, if they want to get themselves off the bottom out of 6th place, there's a very real world that a win up against WE and then a win up against EDG might be able to get them there. Or Thunder Talk, sorry. Might be able to get them there.
Yeah, there is a chance, right? There is all of a sudden a chance. I think with these couple of wins as well, we get EDG off of the conversation we were having about them last week in terms of worst teams ever in the LPL. They're no longer to be a part of that, right? H5 and all of them going to keep their records on that front, and it's always just nice to get a win, a series victory, right? Anytime that you see a team really, really struggling, seeing them pick themselves up just one victory, something to talk about, something to say, hey, they did well. And their opponents here today were in this exact same spot in the last split, right? In the previous split, they sat in the exact same place. They just had nothing going for them. They were finally able to pick themselves up a victory versus IG, lost everything else throughout, and so, you know, it could look up for EDG at some point. So we have a look at the stats off of the back of the game. Bulldog MVP performance right here. What a performance from my man.
Yeah, on the Yone in the mid lane. We talked about it in the draft. You specifically highlighted this, actually, Bloxer, that the second Karis put the Rise in on R1, first pick for WE, it was Bulldog that went, yeah, Yone's my pick, give me that, and, you know, did absolute numbers with the Yone there. We saw really far ahead in terms of damage, was consistently a nuisance to be trying to deal with. This is all in spite of what was probably the best start to a game that WE could have hoped for.
Yeah, I mean, I was super convinced that we were going to a game number 3 right here. I was fully all in on, yeah, game number 3 incoming. Nothing really that you're too worried about happening at this point, and instead, they just throw things away through not even necessarily bad team fighting, but they just were picking odd team fights, trying to play through moments when they really just couldn't afford to fight. And God, looking through all of these team fights as well, Parukia missed a lot of dredge lines, right? There's a very different game in here if Parukia's hitting these dredge lines, and he just wasn't hitting them, which, to be fair, might have been a good thing with the outcome in the end. Maybe he would have dragged himself in a little bit too far.
Yeah, there's a world where a hit dredge line costs you your life and actually gives WE a window to pick off a support for free, but you know, this fight, or this game rather, came down to the team fights. WE, for the most part, had the better hold of the map. And, you know, for a good number of these team fights, had a better hold of those as well. You can see that the power the Ornn had in this game was that of a frontline, where it was EDG who just didn't have that in their arsenal. They didn't have that in their toolkit. Do get to see that JJ once again had a really solid performance, this time though on the Qiyana, doing a great job trying to get into the backline and find access. Obviously that is a little slow-mo to highlight some of the issues that we saw for about, but even still, leave on the misfortune. In the end, did it come good? I don't know. Cube here. Yeah, some big blunders. There were lots in this fight in particular. This is a disaster.
Parukia hitting the minion as well. Like, everything goes wide in this team fight. Everything misses, really, but it doesn't even matter in the end because Bulldog doesn't miss. Bulldog knows what's up. Beautiful fate sealed right there, as we were talking about. And the fact that they're able to just win the game straight up in this moment is lovely. It's lovely that they know, they smell blood in the water, and for once, it does actually come through. So, for player of the game, Bulldog, right? Like, I think that's pretty obvious. Player of the match, though,
could go to JJ. I think Parukia is now out of contention off of that Nautilus performance, unfortunately, which is maybe a little bit sad, but you can't really give it to anybody in the bot lane when they were down 1,300 gold pretty much the entirety of game number 2. Player of the series, you know, you're tossing up between the mid and the jungle, I think. Bulldog, yep, rightfully earning player of the game. For game number 2, 83% kill participation as well. Really a part of the majority of the kills going down, and good to see that the MVP count is now not exclusively lying on JJ. 200% of the gold that he got, he was able to turn into damage as well, which I think is a really good stat to have.
Yeah, absolutely. He looked really good. I wouldn't mind if he gets the player of the series vote either. I think he played himself a really good Cassiopeia game in game number 1. Obviously a much better look on the Yone, but this was a bit of a quieter game out of JJ, was really carried in the end. You can see, yeah, everybody bar one voting on towards...
the summoners.
Summoners, they think that it was a jungle game, which, you know, we'd personally disagree with in this situation, but it wasn't terrible.
I'd be interested to get confirmation on who the summoners is my view of it is probably that it's the people that are fans in the arena maybe, or definitely a more fan-centered vote there for JJ, a very popular, prestigious name, obviously, in the LPL. And then we get on to, obviously, player of the match conversation, where it is JJ who picks that one up. A 24 KDA playing Pantheon and Qiyana. I don't know that you can have too much of a discussion about that.
No, I think that was a really good look overall from him. Yeah, the Qiyana wasn't the single most impressive performance that we've seen, but it did enough in the end, was blowing up a couple of these backline carries. A few really nice moments for him right there. Well deserved overall.
Yeah, and we'll get to take a look at some of the highlights through this series for JJ. Again, in game number 1, we'll get to see a little bit of a showcase for why Parukia had a shout to be a player of the game for game number 1. A lot of these plays that we saw JJ make, when we're looking at these Grand Starfalls, it's with a Bard in the back pocket to try and make some of these picks always succeed.
Yeah, indeed. And if he's able to just, you know, keep playing like this, keep finding ways to help his team out, if they are able to give him these okay performances from the rest of the lanes, it's just a much better look out of EDG. And we will see, right, there is a long history, right, at this point in the LPL of teams at the bottom of Group Ascend doing really badly, us thinking, hey, the Group Nirvana teams, they've got a real chance, and then it just doesn't end up happening, and EDG, they may well be carrying that one on.
It is JJ to secure player of the series. We'll get the votes up as well. I don't think this is going to be as split as we might like it to be, Block. So good conversation for Bulldog, but no. Complete sweep, 8 for 8 for JJ, who did have a very good series. We cannot deny that. Really, in any sense, the captain of this EDG roster able to succeed for the first time in 12 series, and a sad look for Team WE in their home arena. They, on their first series back at home, were not able to do what really a lot of us would have expected them to do. Fortunately though, folks, or unfortunately, we have gone to the end of our LPL day, the final week here of the regular season, and we didn't make it to all 9 games. There's a little bit of fun fact of trivia for you all. The LPL actually hasn't seen a full 9-game day for over a year. It was August 16th, if my memory serves, or if I was told and I've remembered correctly there. So we are over 365 days since we last saw a full 9-game day. And I think after game number 1, we maybe thought that we were going to see one once again, but we weren't quite there, Bloxer.
No, not quite in that situation. It is just about going to be an 8-game day. Pretty long one overall. And it has been good fun. I think it would have been fun as well to have seen a 9th game out of this. But I think in the end, getting that 2-0 out of EDG, just that little bit more satisfying overall, just helps them get things together, make everything feel that, you know, little bit better.
It does. But with that, folks, we are going to end our broadcast. So before we do that, I'd like to say a big thank you to our Elite Coffee supporters, those being Aaron Soup, Monk, Gelati, and Andrea Duran. Their pledged financial contributions helps level up the broadcast and give back to the cast and crew who are striving to give you an English LPL product every single day we can. A big thank you to you, Bloxer, for joining me. A big thank you to Slayer and K-Man. A big thank you to Cubby and Yanni. And a massive thank you to Ice Fireeyed behind the scenes pushing the buttons for almost all 9 games for the day. But most of all, folks, a massive thank you to you all at home for watching, for supporting and contributing to our financials as best as you can. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you tomorrow.